Hello, everybody, and welcome to our panel discussion. The objective today is to give a little bit of insight into the processes and various techniques that we've all used to maximize performance over the years. Very fortunate to be joined by a highly talented panel, even if they say so themselves. I'm the CEO of Linkdex. We're a SaaS-based data platform that helps manage search, social, PR, and affiliate programs. I promise not to try to sell it to you today. Very quickly, let the guys introduce themselves. Chris.
All right. I'm Chris Graham. I'm the COO of DNA Digital Net Agency. Agency's only been around since June of 2012, growing very quickly. We deal with all forms of online marketing, very performance focused. So most of the things we look at are ROI or whatever other KPI is essential to the client.
My name is Erik. I am the Senior Director of Business Development at Wize Commerce. More familiar, most of you might know of NextTag, which is a shopping comparison engine. Prior to that, I have like 15 years experience working, starting up affiliate programs, most notably Ticketmaster's original affiliate program and a company called Reel.com, R-E-E-L.com.
And my name is Charlie Calabrese. I'm the VP of Operations for Performance Horizon Group. Performance Horizon Group is a global tracking, reporting, and payment tool. Kind of helps Fortune 100 brands have affiliate programs in-house, so they can take their own affiliate programs in-house. Prior to that, I was a data analyst for AOL, and I ran the Buyout affiliate network in the US.
Thanks, guys. Okay, just before we begin, can I have a very quick show of hands, and I'm sorry to do this, but if anybody's an affiliate or a publisher, we have one. Welcome. And which of you guys work for an agency or an OPM?
Two.
Okay, so the rest of you either are other or network. We'll go with that. All right. So that was just for Charlie. What we're going to do is, before we go into any great kind of Q&A session, I thought each of the guys could just give a little bit of insight into various things they've come across, the processes that they've had to put in place to run some of the bigger affiliate programs, and just talk through their various experiences. So perhaps, Charlie, you looked after the Ticketmaster program in your buyout days.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Ticketmaster was a beast of a program. Sorry, Erik. Ticketmaster, yeah, you're welcome. Erik was in charge at the time. Ticketmaster was 10,000 affiliates throughout the US and Europe. They had almost every venue in the United States. They had a data feed that was disastrous. And they had information that they wanted to give to publishers that was constantly changing, because obviously every night a show disappears, right? So one day it's there and the next day it's gone. So, for that we had to build out, what I think were powerful tools, specifically APIs and widgets. And the widgets were very much powered by the API. So the API was the most important piece. Very clean, very robust. Something that someone could get every single day, and every single day it would be up to date, getting rid of the stuff that had expired. And the widgets were very much dynamic ads. So they were ad units that someone could put on their site, they could put on a blog, they could put on Facebook. And conceptually it was, even though, I don't know, Justin Bieber's concerts were over in San Francisco today, he still had 100 other concerts that were going on. So it was important that that widget showed the other concerts. And by doing so, we were able to give people the data that they wanted without it being old, without it being something that had expired and died. So I thought it to be a very good example of ways that you had to take troublesome data and make it something that was more user-friendly, something that people could pull into their own systems and build calendars or build their own tools or put it on their own sites so that they could find a way to make money that was best for them.
Erik, do you want to add to that? Because you were his boss, right?
Oh no, I thought, by the way, the example was always Celine Dion, not Justin Bieber.
I know, but Celine Dion's so passé.
Yeah, she was awesome.
And Justin Bieber is not, right?
She sold tickets.
Yeah.
She did sell tickets. She could sell tickets.
You know, I think that part of where Charlie was going is, actually, how many of you out there work with feeds on a daily basis, either to import or export? Okay. How many of you work with APIs? Okay. You know, one of the things when I first started was it was all about feeds, or actually feeds weren't created. We actually did them on spreadsheets. But as you get more with big data, and we're talking about big data here, it's really important to be what I like to say: cheaper, faster, bigger, better. And there are a lot of people out there that I deal with today on a daily basis who say I only bring things in with feeds. I don't use an API to bring in my feeds, or I only export via feeds and I don't use an API, and vice versa. Or I don't work. I mean, there's a big company that I work with right now who says I don't use APIs. I use feeds. And I said, well, at NextTag we have 10,000 different feeds, and we have 100 million products, and they get updated all the time. So if you can't pull that data in fast, you're not going to have the right price. People are going to be very upset. Same thing with like Ticketmaster had, not in those days, Ticketmaster doesn't ticket every venue like you might believe. So if you were to look at Ticketmaster, you had, you could look at the calendar for Justin Bieber, okay? And you would look at it and say, what happened on June 22nd? Where's that date there? Isn't he supposed to be in Houston? Well, Ticketmaster didn't have that, that venue, so the Houston Center or Toyota Center or something, and that date would be missing and people would not see it. So if you were a great publisher or a really good network or agency, you could actually bring in a feed or an API from somewhere else, or maybe probably a feed from somewhere else where they ticketed that date, and you could republish that somewhere else and have a full calendar, a better calendar than Ticketmaster or the venue itself. So that's bigger data. Faster data, again, updating all the time. We have people updating, again, in the ticketing business. If you ever buy tickets on StubHub, anybody here buy tickets on StubHub? Last minute, people will say, okay, I'm not selling my tickets, I got to bring down the price. If your API isn't updating that data right away, you're going to get the wrong price. You might not even know that thing has dropped, $30. Cheaper, if you're still using feeds, you're pulling the data manually, it's not updating on time, you have to look for it. I see a lot of people still doing that, and they're saying, I didn't know that there was a new deal out there. Time is money, and you're just wasting your time if you don't have the ability to work with an API. And better, one of the things we talked about are widgets. I always bring up this example. When I was at Ticketmaster, Bon Jovi was doing some crazy stuff when he was trying to do country music, and people didn't like it. Well, if you use those APIs and use APIs smartly to bring in data and push out promotions, you can use more social and mobile. You take advantage of the social and mobile aspect. So we had a girl from Kansas, I think it's Topeka, Kansas, and there was a concert. It wasn't sold out, and the promoter said, "Hey, how do I get this data out there? How do I get this concert promoted in Kansas so I can sell out this show?" Well, this girl basically took her little widget, posted it on her, at the time you could do this on Facebook, posted it on her Facebook page, and she basically sold out the program, sold out that date. And so she made, I think, $1,000 for that venue, or for herself, for herself for that affiliate program. And it was only 25 cents a ticket, I think, that she could make. And she ended up getting a job for that summer. That was her summer job as a concert promoter. So anyway, cheaper, faster, bigger, better. My push here is, feeds, API, be able to work with different kinds of platform with big data.
Just touching on big data a second, because obviously that's a bit close to our heart as well.
Yeah.
Where do you see the evolution of big data? What is it that people have got to understand about data, how they're going to be using data in the future?
Well, it's actually funny, because I had a friend of mine who had a site that was bought. It was called Tech Bargains. Anybody familiar with that site? My friend is, he sold that company for several $1 million. And his problem was that he was just always typing everything in. He actually stopped. He sold the company because he couldn't type anymore. And so those of you who have blogs or anything like that who publish all the time and are writing so much about what you believe in, he ended up, the guy who bought the site from him had to redo the whole website just from scratch, 10 years worth of entries to make that site updated and clean with that all the new big data, and actually has been able to take old posts and triple the conversions on those old posts on products that nobody was buying anymore.
I mean, big data though, like big data's evolution is present even like today. Like, if any of you have checked in while you've been here, like on Foursquare, that's big data. Like, people are using that data to remarket things to you. They're trying to tell you where the best pizza shop in town is, or the best cheesesteak is. So big data is in everything that we do. It's just not always inherently visible.
Sure,
right?
sure. And it's an interesting point that Erik raised. I remember going to an agency recently, and this agency is one of the big search agencies in the States. And they were using Excel to track their entire search keywords. And they weren't 10 or 50 or 100. We're talking millions of lines of Excel. And lo and behold, it kept crashing. So I said, well, what you really want to do is buy yourself a nice SEO platform. Look, here's one I made earlier. And they did, except they bought somebody else's platform, which is a bit frustrating. But it just shows that even the bigger agencies are still looking at kind of old school methodology to deal with data. And I think the whole point of this panel and this discussion is to say, well, how can you avoid that? How can you do things that are going to help you maximize your time, become more efficient? And just as this agency, who shall remain nameless, became very efficient after they dropped Excel and took on a SaaS-based system. And it wasn't expensive. It was just they'd never really thought there's another way of doing things. They were stuck in their ways. So Chris, as an agency, you've obviously looked at a lot of affiliate recruitment processes.
Right, right. Yeah, it's affiliate recruitment is definitely one of those areas that still is in the dark ages. I mean, most networks are still going out looking at the Google results, trying to find websites that they can go to and then trying to find the contact information for those guys. And realistically, it's a very labor-intensive process when you're doing it that way. It's also very, very expensive because you're talking about manpower, man-hours. You have to have a much bigger team if you're going to go through this kind of manual processes. What we did was develop an actual tool that would, in essence, we would pull data from a lot of different sources. So we would pull search engine rankings on a daily basis. We would pull, we use the API from ComScore so that we could see what traffic each of those publishers were getting, where they were getting their traffic from, and in essence created what we called a genome that allowed us to understand what the actual, in essence, marketing background was for each of those sites. That would allow us to then go out and say, well, here are my top 5 or here are my top 10 publishers. These top 10 publishers generate realistically 90% of the revenue that's coming through the door. So if I want to have an impact on a program, I need more guys like this. We would map that genetic code, in essence, and turn around and say, out of these 3,000 publishers that we see, there are 5 that actually fit the same genetic code as these top 10 publishers. That should suggest that I have the potential to increase my revenue on that program by 50%, and I only have to focus on those top 5 from a recruitment perspective. Naturally, you're going to go after more, and you're going to have other guys that you see an opportunity with or something like that. But finding a way to really streamline that process and have your team looking only at publishers that have real potential was extremely important for us. And it allowed us to grow programs much more quickly than what we were used to. I mean, it used to be, and it still is. For the most part, people expect that a new program is going to take 6 months before you're going to be able to make it profitable. If you're using a process like that, you should be able to speed up that process significantly.
And in terms of, say, tracking that process,
right.
I mean, we've just taken on Salesforce after using Zoho for many years, and one of the reasons we changed is actually because people weren't really taking up the offer that I had to use Zoho and that it would make their lives better. They decided that using a CRM was not a great thing to do. So if you change the CRM, you may change the behavior, and so far so good. But in terms of managing, we're talking about data, let's actually drill down into small amounts of data in terms of managing your communications with these individual affiliates.
Yeah, we actually had built into the system a CRM system. So that every time anybody sent an email, we tracked that, we tracked whether or not they responded. Now, it wasn't a very complex system. The reality is that I always look at affiliate recruitment as a sales job. These are people who are out there trying to convince people to start carrying their offers. So it's the same process. You need to be marketing to them in a way that's actually important and valid for them. A good CRM system is going to let you know what they respond to, what offers they typically like, are they a couponer, do they have an API in place. All those different aspects should be in that data set so that that salesperson, your affiliate recruiter, actually knows what they need to bring up and what they need to target, both in their emails and in their actual conversations.
Okay, so we all know that we probably send a few too many emails, and affiliates know they receive far too many emails. So is email the answer when you're looking at the affiliate recruitment process, or is there other ways to perhaps look at how we can engage with affiliates?
I mean, especially when we're focusing on those top publishers that we wanted to go after, we were picking up the phone. And, luckily there are systems that will give you contact information. If you can't find it there, then you go through Domain Tools or Whois or something like that. But we would pick up the phone and actually call those publishers and start the conversation direct rather than trying to get them through email.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that everybody forgets about are the simple ways to find that information out. And, and that's not that picking up the phone is difficult. I think that's really valuable. But like when you have if you're an advertiser or you're a network or you're a publisher, one of the things that you should be pushing for is to find out what type of publisher you're going to work with. So in the sign-up path, right? Like say, how do you promote? Well, I promote via search or I promote via content. And if you promote via content, what type of content? Because that information can be collected.
Absolutely.
And then that's brought into a CRM tool, and then you can target the emails that you're sending.
Right.
And we have quite a few clients who are doing that these days who are saying like, I'm an app developer and my apps are games. Well, that's fantastic. That means that if I have a game offer or something that's specific, I really want to make sure that you're getting that email. So email still works, but you have to make email hyper-targeted. Like it has to be
It's relevance, isn't it?
Yeah,
so we've got to make it relevant.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
And I mean, in my past life, before this wonderful new one, I was the CEO of a company called TMN Group, and we would send out quite a few emails, around 50 million a month. And it's a truism that if we target well and we have the right content, then, okay, this was B2C, but people would respond. If you send out, and I still see it today as an affiliate myself, so I still receive lots of emails from programs that I've signed up to that somebody's made an assumption that that must be relevant. They're going to send me some more information from their network, but of course it's not relevant, and I don't think I've ever clicked on one.
Right.
Despite the fact that I'm quite happy to receive lots of emails. So I think the idea of content and relevance today is as, if not more important than ever, and actually then controlling that information through the CRM, that's when we create a level of efficiency in the recruitment process.
Absolutely.
I also think, though, the implementation, if you make it really simple, I mean, the chances are that somebody, when they're signing up the program, is making that decision right there and then, and they're making that time to join your program. Or and if they can't meet, if they're waiting and you're trading phone calls all the time, that's not the right process. Because if somebody wants to start and can start today, and you're going to have take 3 days to review you and have a process for getting that guy's already lost or gal's already lost their impetus to join your program. You've spent all this time trying to find them. Now you're spending all this time trying to get them started. If it's not simple, if the API documentation or the feed documentation or good examples don't exist, right for that person to start today, and if my mom can't do it, then you can't do it, and then it's going to take forever, and you're never going to be as profitable as I'd like you to be, and you're going to take more of my time calling me and calling my team to get started. So I think the simpler the process, the more clear the messages on how you're going to make money and how you're going to benefit and be unique is also a key part, not just the recruiting.
Do you think that process, though, is valid for all programs? Because in my way of looking at it is we have certain programs that are really high-end fashion. We have to be very specific about who we let into the program and the process that we have to go through. They're not going to have 10,000 affiliates like Ticketmaster. So how does that differ between different types of clients, or do you feel it does?
Yeah, you're right. It depends, right? I mean, I'll tell you, when we had, in the early days of programs with Real.com, we had about 250,000 partners. and you you manage the 80-20, right?
Right.
If you don't want to be spending all your time with the 80% as well, you want that, it's really that 20% that you want to help manage, provide the specific merchandising opportunities that you provide. And a lot of that time, I look at my company today, and I look at a lot of the merchants that we work with today, they're not the optimal branding facilities, right?
Right.
So I think the content that is provided by the publisher is what makes it unique and what makes the experience unique. And I like to treat publishers as my external salespeople. They know the message better than I do. We only have the typed message, the message that we're told to tell you. But they're the ones who try different things. They're the ones who mix products together and make it look right, because they just had the right, they know their client better than we do. They know their traffic better than we do.
Yeah, they also are more willing to spend on like PPC,
Right.
right, and Facebook ads that lots of brands might not. So even if like whether it's a fashion brand or it's got lots of publishers or very few publishers, letting your publishers off the chain a little bit and letting them go do some work in the PPC arena and giving them access to certain branded terms, it's a risk, but it's a calculated risk, and one that I think has worked out well for a lot of people who have done it historically.
And they're good tools that allow you to track the activity of each of those publishers within PPC to make sure that they're not cannibalizing, they're actually providing a benefit to you. There's some great stuff out there, Ad Guru, the Search Monitor. I use the Search Monitor. And we track, it will actually allow you to say this publisher is allowed to bid up to this particular point. If they violate that, then we see that and we go back and we have a discussion. But in most cases, they're not. If we've given them the opportunity to go to a certain level, they're perfectly happy with that. If they can be in position 3, they still get the eyeballs, they still get an opportunity. And obviously on broad terms, they can do whatever they want to do. Just make sure that you are keeping an eye on their activity and that you feel comfortable with what they're doing.
This is where technology comes into play, right? Because you
Absolutely.
can't keep an eye on everybody, so you've got to have the right tools at your disposal. And we're not talking expensive tools here.
No, I mean there's
No.
not at all. There's free tools. I mean,
Yeah.
one of the tools that I like best, especially if you're like in the email world or you play around in email, whether you're a publisher or an advertiser, there's a tool called WrapLeaf. And I love that tool set. So basically you can give it an email, and it's open, so it's free for the basic information. You can send it any list of email addresses via an API, and it'll tell you if that person is male or female. It'll tell you a general geographic region, and it'll give you a general household income, all for free. And then if you want to pay a couple bucks extra, they'll give you even more detailed information, like how many kids they have, or are they married or not. Information that if you're someone who's in email marketing, super useful. And you can get a lot of it for free, all from one place. And later, if you find it to be particularly useful, you can pay for a couple of the extra perks.
Yep.
We'll come on to a few other technologies later, because I think it's actually quite useful to understand what sort of technologies are available that we've been using and the panel have been using to really help with the efficiencies. I wanted to touch on kind of the next part of affiliate recruitment, retention. So you've got the affiliate, and they are running a few programs, and you're keeping an eye on them, and you're allowing them to do search. Affiliate Future, which I was back in 2008 or so, it was a very basic network. It was actually really big in the UK. We're turning over far too much money to be a basic network, right? But we didn't have any sort of affiliate response mechanism. In the end, we put in a very basic ticketing system, which I think costs the best part of $50 a month, to allow us just to see who was writing to us to complain. We had quite a few. So what would you guys suggest in terms of managing more on a day-to-day basis, the retention side of things? Eric, you look happy to go.
Wow.
I don't get called on first.
I really, I'm all about staying on top of those top people and giving them personal account managers. There are a lot of tools out there, but I think making sure that you're staying on top of your top accounts. I mean, we set up weekly calls with all of our top accounts to make sure we have. Actually, we use Charlie's system, Performance Horizon, too, and I'm not supposed to plug everybody, but we monitor using that system to see who are rising accounts, who are dropping accounts, who are our top accounts. It's obviously better to keep an account that you've invested so much time in, and you know how it performs, rather than to acquire a new one that you don't know how it's going to perform. So we spend a lot of our time focus strictly on managing those accounts just through online dashboards and set up meetings all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, we used to, and still do, using a tool not to be mentioned at this moment, but what we do is we actually go through and we look at all the different URLs that our offers are on for that particular publisher. And we can actually go in and type in particular keywords that we want to see in that URL, or we can look at the actual content that's on the page to find pages that seem to be relevant to the products of our clients. We want to make sure that we have position within those pages. And what we find is that quite often, you know, an affiliate will go up and put it up. If it's not site-wide, then you're going to show up on a few pages. They continue to do new content. It doesn't automatically make its way over to the content that's going to be the freshest, that's going to get the most eyeballs, and that truly is relevant to your consumers and to your brand. So we would actually go through and filter through their existing website and say, okay, well, where are all these other opportunities? We are also looking to see if our competitors are on those particular pages. If they are, what position are they at on that page, and can we get that piece or that position within that page taken away from them? Which obviously takes a lot of negotiation, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if I was, you know, trying to think about it as an affiliate, like, the most annoying thing in the world is trying to change out creative when you have 100 sites, or trying to manage creative that isn't fresh. So one of the things that, you know, I like to suggest is to always have creative that's fresh, always have an ability to push out fresh creative as opposed to making a publisher come and get fresh creative.
Absolutely.
And that's, you know, the idea of a dynamic creative. It doesn't have to be a widget. It can just be an image that can be changed without the publisher having to make the effort to do it. So that, you know, when the, you know, in the example of your fashion changes so rapidly, right? So yeah. Nobody wants to see bathing suits in December, or I don't know, maybe they do. I don't know how that works, but you want to make sure that it's timely. So making sure that you have fresh creative and creative that's not difficult for a publisher to have to come and get is going to make your publishers happy. And if it's something that your competitor is not doing, it's something that's going to draw publishers in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, one thing is to add is, you know, I had a conversation with one of my clients about 3 months ago, and, you know, we had some issues because we were implementing and it didn't go so well, but they were still a top client, and some of it was content, some of it was just general, just technical mishaps. But in the end, they said it was about our ability to give them everything in a very timely information, 3 times as fast as our major competitor, which allowed them to save a lot of money. And you know, if you can provide them the right tools that save them time as well, that's really important, because they're looking to you, or looking to us in this case, as a true partner, not just for marketing but for technology.
Okay, it's something that cropped up in my head actually, and I'm not sure how prevalent this is in the US, so bear with me if it's not. But one thing we have in the UK with a lot of the affiliates, or the very big loyalty affiliates, is you've got a lot of users who are spending lots of money through the loyalty programs and getting their cash back and so on. And then every once in a while, every hour or so, if it's certain networks, the tracking will go array. It won't work. And so the user will go to the loyalty site and say, I paid for this on this date, here's my receipt, where's my money? Now, therefore, the whole of, all of the networks in the UK have had to kind of create a missing or a transactional report that the the loyalty site send in to say all these users are claiming these transactions have gone missing. Is that something you guys are coming across in the US now? Your loyalty sites are kind of up there, and are you seeing lots of missing transaction issues?
You know, I think one of the things that, you know, when I ran a network historically and running a tool now that has network-like entity or network-like tools, you have to have an ability to deal with, I'm going to call them disputed transactions. Mm-hmm. So, and that's on both sides, right? So it's going to be the publisher saying, you owe me money for this, and it's going to be the advertiser saying, there was fraud here, here, and here. So having a part of your interface or having a tool set that allows the publisher to interact and say, here are the item IDs that I was told or that I personally purchased, and then being able to go and look them up, that's key to any business, I think, whether it's online or offline, but having that interface available really makes life a lot easier because publishers feel a certain amount of comfort, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, and I think that the thing about the UK is around 30% of all transactions are through the loyalty programs now, so that's kind of a large part of affiliate marketing overall. Chris, as an agency that kind of sits in the middle here, how would you get your networks and clients and publishers, I guess, to kind of interact and deal with that sort of thing?
You know, to be honest, we don't deal with that issue very much. We are pretty much focused on the U.S., and a lot of our brands don't work with loyalty sites, and they won't work with coupon sites even.
That's a quick answer, thank you.
Yeah, so we don't deal with that very much.
Okay, all right. Now we're just going to flick through a little bit of Q&A through the screen and hopefully get you guys thinking about some questions you may have for the panel as well. So just kind of kicking off and taking it back to its most simplistic level, which may suit Charlie best. You're welcome. What does the best process mean to you? What is it that we're here to talk about maximizing efficiencies. What does that actually mean, and what would you like to advise people when they're looking at how they're going to make their lives a little bit more efficient than perhaps they are right now?
Well, I think there's a couple things. Don't rely on the things that you know. So probably there are several of you out there that know databases, and you probably know SQL or MySQL. There are better options if you're dealing with huge amounts of data. And one of those options might be Mongo, or it might be Redis, or it might be Cassandra. They're all free. They're all different database types, but they allow you to handle huge amounts of data and return that data very, very quickly. But I think, from the question itself, like, what does best practice mean to you? Best practice is ever evolving. So the things that you're doing best today, in a month, won't be the best anymore. So you have to keep evaluating. You have to keep reevaluating what you're doing and making sure that it truly is a best practice. Because what was great 2 years ago is not so much today. I mean, I don't know the last time I was on MySpace, but not that long ago people thought that was great. So.
No comments. Actually, Erik, you kind of summed it up really well earlier, so I don't know if you want to just take a little bit on that, but in the kind of the simplicity of it all and the bigger, faster, better.
Yeah, I think, again, if you want to talk about what's tomorrow, right, we still don't know, for example, what social advertising, mobile advertising really has going for us. A lot of big companies are saying it's not working, it's not right for me yet, it's not profitable, I don't see the ROI in it. But if you keep working and you have a process that's flexible and will be able to adjust once that takes off, for me today, that's what I'm still targeting. I hear people every day, engineers saying, no, I don't want to bother with that, it's not worth it. But I think if you have, and maybe it'll never work, but if you have that thought in mind as to how will this evolve and how will I be able to change my processes or my technology to evolve, that to me is a best practice.
So Chris, because you didn't answer the last question. So, well, again, I want to try and just bring it a little bit back to the lower level, the simple level. What do we have to be aware of when we're looking at putting in place processes that will help with our efficiency? Because it's all very well me standing up here and saying, well, let's put a CRM in place, and then let's put something else in place that will attach to that CRM, and everybody's life becomes much more simple. But of course, that costs money, and there's time, and so on. So what would you recommend?
I say start with the basics. I mean, the first thing is goals. You'd be amazed at how many brands come through the door and have literally no goal set for what their program's supposed to do, what they're trying to achieve. Even brands who are established and already have solid affiliate programs or SEO or PPC really haven't set what is supposed to occur down the road. Set those goals. Figure it out to a point where you can bring it down to a daily process. Every single day, I need to recruit X number of affiliates. Every single day, I need to increase the amount of revenue coming through the door by X number of dollars in order to achieve this final goal. And it can become extremely simple. If your team sits there and every single day they log in, we use a project management system They log in, they know I need to do these 3 things in order for me to actually keep pushing this program to where it's supposed to go. And it's amazing because their life becomes much less stressful. They have a very solid sense of what they need to achieve, and they typically have days on a regular basis where they walk out thinking, wow, this is actually going exactly the way that it's supposed to go. If you're just flying by the seat of your pants, you're not going to achieve much.
A little bit of what you said is know what you know and know what you don't know, right? I mean, and I think it's more important to know what you don't know and realize that really quick. Make sure that you find the people who do know what you don't know and partner with them. I see a lot of companies, especially tech companies, we're all in the technology business. Hey, we can do that ourselves. Well, yeah, you can probably do it yourself, but it probably costs you a lot more money. You would be efficient at it, and maybe it's not what you need to be good at. I mean, you're going to see right now I see a lot of large brands out there, which, e-commerce is out there. I need to build an e-commerce department. I built an e-commerce department of 100 people. That's not what we do. Why do I have 100 people dedicated to what we would normally call one brick and mortar store? So those people are now saying, wait a second, I don't need an e-commerce department. I have people who can run an e-commerce department for me externally. We just provide the product and merchandising. They're just a salesperson for us. So know what you know, do that, manage your database of product, et cetera, your catalog. And then if you don't know how to run a site, let somebody else do it for you.
If you don't know how to run anything, let somebody else do it for you. I mean, I studied to be an engineer when I was in college, and one of the things that they preached was this keep it simple, stupid, the KISS methodology. And, if there's anything that's true in that, it's you're never going to be an expert in everything. And you have to accept that. You want to be an expert in one thing, and that's what you sell, right? So I sell a software. Erik sells comparison shopping. Chris sells his expertise as an agency. Mark sells his smart-ass remarks. And
nobody buys.
Nobody buys. But you don't want to pretend to be an expert in everything. So find the people that are and befriend them. And if you can learn from them, fantastic. If you can employ them, even better. It's just, you're going to have to find people who are experts in your field. Otherwise, you're going to beat your brains in trying to be an expert at everything.
It's interesting, actually, I got Charlie here because it's strange to think that Performance Horizons is 2 years old, 18 months old.
Yeah.
It's very, very new, and yet we're seeing, obviously it's doing very well. I'm not here to blow too much smoke, but it'd be interesting to kind of get your feedback, and I'm sure there's a few people in this room that are businesses that perhaps aren't that old either. What would you advise to a startup in terms of, you've got a blank piece of paper, and that's all very well, but you've got to start writing on that piece of paper. What would your advice be to a startup?
Yeah. So first and foremost, make sure that you have found something you're passionate about, because if you haven't, you're wasting your time. For me, I'm a data nerd, so it totally works, right? If you're not going to be passionate about the things that you're going to do, don't do it. But you have to have, from my perspective, you can go so far without advice before you fall down. So the thing that we did, that early stage that I think every startup should consider, is having an advisory board. And that seems somewhat intuitive, but have an advisory board, give them a very small piece of your company. It's okay to give a little bit away. And make sure that they're people that are fantastic. They're people that are passionate about what you're doing, or they're people that buy into it. And they should be the people that are your network, right? So they should be able to make introductions for you. They should be people that are able to get you to the forefront faster, cheaper. What was it?
Bigger, better.
Bigger, better, faster, stronger. That's a song, isn't it?
Is that Celine Dion?
Yeah, it might be. Justin Bieber.
Or just a $6 million man.
Yes. We can rebuild him. So, we got a ton of reach from our advisory board, but we were blessed to have an advisory board who really was very experienced. So if you can do that, I advise it in a heartbeat.
It is strange you bring that up, and this wasn't rehearsed, because we have literally just put in place an advisory board for our product.
Congratulations.
Because actually, well, in many ways, we become very internalized, and we start thinking, well, in innovation, that's us, right? But actually, innovation isn't us. What we are is people who should be responding to clients and looking at their needs and building the products out. So actually, we become a little bit blind to everything else. So having an outside force, if you like, is not an expensive thing to do. As Charlie says, give a little bit of the equity away. That's the cheapest way of doing it in many respects. So I think that's a very good piece of advice. Just moving this along a little bit. Technologies. Charlie's favorite, so I'll ask Erik.
Excellent. That was awesome.
Which technologies have you integrated to streamline process? Now, I want to be quite specific. So, you know, we've used Salesforce. We have Basecamp for running our project management. Okay, these are two kind of broad tools. Is there anything that you can think of that you put in place to help really streamline and change the way your business works?
Well, I got rid of Salesforce, so how's that?
You picked up PHG.
I picked up you guys.
You picked up me. That was good.
Right, and
Good
then
move.
No selling rule.
yeah, this is not a plug. Or you're making me plug you. So we use Linkdex to help to recruit partners or affiliates, publishers. We use them to check out where potential good traffic's going to come from, rank it, make sure we prioritize our time in recruiting. Charlie's team helps us with our management on a daily basis of our top partners, so we can provide data. Before his group came in, we had this matrix-looking report that provided no data and didn't tell people anything about how they were performing. Now today, those questions that they would call us with are now online for them, real time. They can see the data before we do. They know the trends. They'll call us if they have a problem because they're saying, we saw a problem, you're going to see it when you wake up. You know, just want to let you know that this is not an issue, we just did something. So for us, it's all about managing more with less. And, you know, obviously your product and Charlie's product for us has helped.
I actually didn't mean you to mention us, of course. But it kind of leads on to the next point. So bringing third-party tech together, and I think, Chris, you've had quite a bit of experience with this, it's not easy. They're not made to integrate. And if we're talking about maximizing efficiency, of course, that will minimize efficiency because you're now looking at 3 different techs rather than one. So Chris, what experience you had there?
Well, I mean, typically we, very much the same as what Erik was saying earlier about how you provide data to affiliates, we use APIs as often as possible. If we have to, we're literally sometimes using FTP and different types of feeds. But we create the environment for ourselves. We know what the questions are that we need to deal with on a daily basis. We know what we need to answer. So we focus on those specific KPIs that we know are realistically the core points of how we determine whether or not something is successful. We do our best to stay away from all of the additional data, and that's the issue. Is you can go in and look at a tool like the Search Monitor, which is a phenomenal tool, but it has so many different data sets that you can pull from that realistically for certain purposes are completely irrelevant. You don't need them for certain aspects of what you're trying to do. We've determined that we have to bring that data into certain views, certain environments, dashboards typically, that allow us to then see very specific answers to very specific questions on a daily basis.
Can I add one more thing?
Please do.
I don't know if you're done. Yeah. One of the whenever I talk about Affiliate Summit and I talk about, you know, this business, Jeff Bezos once said that his biggest mistake was not taking the original Amazon Associates program and making it modular so that he could sell it. Because if he did, this wouldn't exist today because everybody would be buying their affiliate programs and having Amazon run their affiliate programs for them.
eBay, baby.
Right? Right? So you know, like for now, when I'm now looking at APIs, API technology in-house, that's something that somebody can just probably run after you get it set up. But there are companies out there that are running APIs for large companies, or running their cloud management of that for capacity. You know, companies like Mashery or Apogee. Those companies are, and Mashery just got bought by Intel. So it tells you where Intel's thinking, right? Intel Inside. So they're having, APIs are going to be the core to most e-commerce and retail.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As far as just name dropping, like not like some tools that I think are interesting, especially when it comes to like APIs and like feed production. There's a company called Fuse Pump that does a really nice job of like they'll scrape a website and create a data feed for you. And then there's another company called Ultimate Feed. They kind of do the same thing. Both of them I've worked with, had very good experiences with, and we've integrated some of their tool sets into our tool, again, bringing in that third party at the request of clients. So both are, I find them both to be very powerful tools.
Yeah, I've used two as well, and Fuse Pump especially I like.
Yeah.
So I'm sure both are very good.
Yeah.
Okay, which leads us nicely on to, and one thing only this time. So what one thing has made the biggest difference to each of you? And this could be a technology or something you've put in place that's made a big difference to the business.
I thought this was what we wish we'd learned earlier.
No, that's the next question.
So yeah, I'll go first, I guess. The one thing I learned, I guess, this isn't what we learned earlier, huh?
Right.
This is one big thing now. Same question as far as I'm concerned.
I'll phrase it very differently in a minute, don't worry.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
The biggest thing for me that's made a difference is having a technology team that is responsive. So like when you need things to change on the fly, which will happen, you need to have some people that can make it happen quick. So having a very responsive technology team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's all in the implementation. For me, I've done so many different programs, so many different categories, so different sizes. It's all about how the team, and I've complained about every single team that's implemented every single one of my affiliate programs.
True story. Been on like 3 of them.
And I've been an ass on all of them. But in the end, those teams that really did well, or, the programs did well had the right technology people. It was all about the people who implemented the technology, and technology was okay too.
Yeah.
Yeah, as an agency, we obviously have a completely different situation because we're not building the technology for running an affiliate program or anything like that. So we're much more focused on how do we actually manage that relationship with the client and with the affiliates. And I've found that there's the emergence of very inexpensive competitive intelligence tools has been really the most important thing that we've been able to touch on. So if you go out and you look at a tool like SEMrush, you go out and you look at tools, I've already mentioned the Search Monitor numerous times, but it's a great tool. There are a number of different affiliate recruitment tools that are out there, some with much better data sets than others, but there are a lot of them out there and some are quite cheap. Those tools allow us to get visibility into what our clients' competitors are actually doing. And if you do it right, you can get a sense of what's working for that competitor and what's not working for them. And you can really avoid a lot of the pitfalls that most brands go through.
This will come as a huge surprise to all of the panel. We all make mistakes. And it's just a fun question, really, to end this part and see if we got some questions from the floor. But Charlie, don't tell me about the mistakes, but do tell me about something perhaps you wish you'd known 5 years ago, other than not to join me on a panel.
Yeah, I was going to say, learn not to work with people. On a panel? No, actually I'll go back a little further than 5 years. So one of the things that I learned from my first real manager was, and it's going to sound horrible, but please just give me a second to explain. No one's going to look out for you but you. So the company that you work for, they may seem like the most important thing in your life at any given time, but the truth of the matter is it's just a company. It's just ones and zeros on the revenue side or on the payment side. You have to be happy in what you do. So if you're not happy doing what you're doing, go find something else, because life is wicked short and it's not worth being unhappy in a job on a day-to-day basis. I mean, you can do 100 things in this industry differently. Yeah. So find something that makes you happy and do it.
That was brilliantly upbeat. Chris, do you want to follow that?
This will be kind of shocking, but I wish I'd found out about URL hijacking a lot earlier.
Ooh, good one.
Both on the side of protecting the brands, but realistically, I have friends who were making millions of dollars a year when it wasn't something that anybody was really concerned with. So yeah, I'd probably be in a different place right now.
If you are concerned with URL hijacking or brand management, like beyond the Search Monitor,
right,
there's another company called Brand Verity,
Brand Verity,
right,
that I have worked with a number of times, and they are fantastic at making sure you're safe.
And AdGuru's another pretty solid tool.
AdGuru is real solid too. Yeah.
Eric, do you want to end us?
I don't make mistakes. No,
Good.
I mean, you can. I don't know how many of you have been in this industry, how long you've all been in this industry. I was in this industry before affiliate summits were in existence, when Sean was just a lackey at these things. And I don't have a regret. I mean, I came from investment banking and consulting and jumped into this business, and I've had a great time. So, yeah, there are headaches that happen. There are new headaches, new technologies. But if you love what you do, this is a great business to be in.
Great. Okay. So over to the floor. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Anybody got any questions? I think there's a mic there if anybody wants to stand up.
We can hear you, dude.
Go
You
ahead.
really don't have to. Don't. Yeah.
If
'cause
there's
like,
one affiliate in the room, let them sit down.
Mark just likes making people walk. It's a thing. Yeah.
And I have a lot of experience working with worldwide traffic,
Okay.
right? So how do you guys handle localization and pricing for the correct VAT?
Oh, such a good question. So that's like a big, yeah. So, yeah, totally great question. So one of the things that my company does is actually manage payments for like our advertisers, right? So like we have an advertiser who's got 185,000 publishers. They operate in 50 plus countries today. I have to make payments in 60 different currencies, and it sucks. But the truth of the matter is, if you have the right tools, and they do exist, like you need to find the right tools. If you want to touch base, not that I want to belittle this, but like if you touch base with me after the session, I'll give you my card and I'll get you in touch with my finance guys, and they can give you some direction on like how we're handling it as far as finance. As far as like APIs and data feeds, translation services at this point in time are a necessity. They suck, but you need them. If you're going to be crossing like that same program that I run in multiple countries has to be translated and look exactly the same in 27 different languages. It's a tough beat, and it costs a good chunk of change. But again, you have to find the right services and people that are consistent.
Charlie, how important is the tagging on the site? So schema.org, things like that, for actually getting the correct stuff to come up.
So like, as far as I'm concerned, like you can't beat a solid sitemap. I know
Right.
that sounds so simplistic, but you have to have a solid implementation. Beyond, everyone talks about, oh, the user interface, that's what's really important. It is, but that's like the last thing you worry about. You got to make sure your site is organized and everything is right and that it's easy to translate, so your phrases can't be overly complex. Like, there's a lot to think about if you're worried about globalization, for sure. So if like, definitely swing by. I'll definitely give you my card, man.
Great, thank you. Any other questions?
So much resource.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if there's one thing you guys are saying, make it simple and easy for affiliates to work with, is there certain widgets or the API that must have that if they want it, should always have that?
Gotta have it all.
Yeah. So you're in a tough space. Like, I think it's a cool business. Like couponing especially is very popular right now, but it's very competitive. Like a very competitive space. So a couple things. You need to be on more than just CJ getting coupons. So
No, we have coupons. We're actually looking for traffic to get those coupons, download coupons.
but where are you getting those coupons from?
We have like 20,000 small business owners for everybody that on a monthly basis we
Okay. So you're going to be the one building the API.
Yeah.
Right, okay. We got asked to say this by a publisher who we met right before this, the four of us, and we're like, okay, don't sound like idiots on stage. And we had an affiliate sitting with us to make sure that we didn't sound like idiots. She didn't give us that feedback. But one of the things that she did say, if someone asks about APIs, specifically the most important thing is to make sure that that API is robust. So more is better, even if they're not going to use all of those data feeds. So overstuff the amount of data that you put in a single row. Put the store, put the start date, put the expiration date, put what it's good for, put a description.
Put the zip code.
Put the zip code. Put as many things as you can in, and let the affiliate decide what fields they need. Don't be the one to make the decisions for them. The more opportunity you give them, the more tools they'll build.
Now, but to the aspect of my better, right? So when you build this API, which is going to power like RSS feeds, right? If you could build, a widget around it, and such that they will expire automatically. So if you had a great little widget that you put on your homepage, wherever you look at every day, and you could share it with friends, because that's what people do with coupons, right? That's why my grandma cuts her coupons and goes to the store, right? But she also shares and tells us, hey, use these, right? You have to have them accessible at all times. So think about when you make this, feed, API widget, make it shareable, via phone, via email, via widget, and make sure that its intended use is made possible via technology, because it'll go viral.
I think that at the same time, like, part of the question was the resources and how important it is. Realistically, in your particular industry, it is going to be one of the most important things that you can possibly do. Not just because of what it does for the affiliates, but also remember that user experience is extremely important. This is like any other marketing that you have out there. This is just like your own home website. The reality is that if you're not updating those coupons on a regular basis and people are getting a bad experience because they're getting stuff that they can't use, then the value of your product has gone down drastically. So you're going to be able to ensure that they don't have that experience, because I can't stand going to any number of coupon sites that are out there and finding a coupon and realizing that coupon doesn't actually work for this particular circumstance, or it's expired, or whatever you want to look at. Make sure that the consumer is actually getting the experience that they're asking for. And I think that's the only way you can do it, is by having that API.
And I think just maybe one other thing, we mentioned a couple of the companies earlier that we like, so FusePump, for example. I would very much think about outsourcing that feed to begin with, I think, from a resource point of view. Yeah. FusePump?
But I also think one of the things that's important, and I think we kind of cover this a little bit, but any of these technologies, you have to prove the ROI. What is your expected revenue that you're going to receive? What is the opportunity cost by selecting one channel over another? Because everything comes with a price. Choosing Charlie's technology, choosing Mark's technology, it costs something. The resources cost something internally versus another project, right? So if the better the ROI, the more priority it's going to get in your own company.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions? We'll go with our non-affiliate.
So I'm coming from a marketing background, and you're starting to talk about APIs, and we have a pretty low number of people that said they know how to use APIs. If you can give me an idea of how I can go about learning to interface with APIs.
So I learned, and you'll laugh, the same way I learned everything is the For Dummies books. Okay. There's an API for dummies, and that's how I first learned. And then one of the things that those books reinforce, and I would reinforce the exact same way, you learn by doing. So go build a small database, and that's how an API starts, right? An API starts with you have a mass of data that you want to pass from point A to point B in real time. So you're going to have to learn to play with databases a little bit, but I read books. Like, I mean, I know that sounds stupid in this day and age, but books are your friend. I swear to God.
But also, if you're like somebody who likes to learn by doing, I mean, I would actually go to Mastery, go to mastery.com to manage APIs. And so they manage it for lots of different consumer brands, because if it's, especially you want to do it around something, like I said, something you like, so something you like to market. So they have lots of companies out there that they've worked with, Netflix, et cetera, and people built little apps and off of their API, but it tells you how to use their API. You can talk to other people on, they have a little chat room, user area, where you can talk with other people. How'd you do that? What'd you do? You know, but they're also, you know, there are secondary education camps where you can learn these things. Like even my 13-year-old son goes to like an app camp, so he knows how to write apps. I mean, that's kind of crazy stuff. And he knows what an API is, and he wants to go to Mastery's API conference. You know, so yeah.
He's 13, dude.
Just employ him.
But it's really, I mean, there are lots of little good cheap resources there, so you don't have to go to, you know, you don't have to buy the book, but the book's cheap too.
You're saying your
Yeah, I mean,
son's
the
a
book's
cheap
like-
resource?
My son fixes things for me. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah. Books aren't that expensive. Just remember that. I know everyone's like, no books, like, but books are your friend, and when you don't know, you can look it back up.
That's good. Any,
Mastery,
M-A-S-H-E-R-Y.
you two could be a duet. That was beautiful.
Thank you. We're here for you, Mark.
Thank you.
As always.
We had another question over here.
I do, again, back to the data feed,
Yep.
worldwide data feed.
Yep.
How do you get over some of these EV pumps, like for example, the UK, and the cookie laws that are being passed?
Yeah.
Sure that your affiliates are getting appropriate credit for the sales that they're
Yeah, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, we have a lawyer in almost every country that we work in. Okay, so like what you're describing, once you start to, like, there is no fast fix when it comes to running something globally. Yeah, and it is. And here's the scary part: it changes week to week, day to day, month to month. It's nuts. So VAT law in UK is so different than VAT law in Germany. You can't even talk to the. It's literally a different language, but it's still tax law.
Yeah.
Right? So the only way to stay ahead of it is to be constantly researching it. For us, it became too daunting a task to handle on our own. If you can afford it, there's a company called PricewaterhouseCoopers. Okay? They are like advisors to our company, and they know these laws inside out. So they're very helpful to us.
The guy over there is doing time. So I do believe
Don't start, man. Don't start. Not all of them are in jail.
Not just for
right?
you.
No, I know, I'm saying.
So
not,
not doing time like that, Charlie. No, not banged up.
yeah. Okay.
So anyway, listen, thank you very much. We'll hang around if you've got any more questions, and happy to talk to you. But thank you for coming along, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.